This is a V8 Jetsprint boat. They almost defy physics and are the most dynamic watercraft on the planet. They are capable of reaching speeds of up to 80 miles an hour in less than 2 seconds. They'll pull more G-forces than an F-111 fighter plane on takeoff. The acceleration is quicker than a NASCAR and with substantially more horsepower. An unlimited V8 Jetsprint boat has up to 1,600 horsepower and no brakes. The men and women who race these boats are certifiably and justifiably requiring mental analysis. Ladies and gentlemen, you'd better hang on to your children because these methanol-sucking monsters are so powerful, they will suck small animals from trees and spit them out of the exhaust pipe. If that doesn't make the hairs in the back of your neck stand up, you'd better go to the doctor because you might be dead. G'day and welcome to the Jetsprint show. Yes, that's right. It's the show where we talk to the characters of jet sprinting right around the world. This week's episode is brought to you by So Not Hippie Tea, and I can guarantee you this stuff is absolutely brilliant. This particular one is called Sharp as a Tack. I prefer to call it Smarty Pants Tea, and here I am pouring myself a cup of Smarty Pants Tea. But in the meantime, the man we have over in New Zealand, he's a doyen of New Zealand jet sprinting. He's an absolute gentleman. He's been involved since day one. Robbie McNabb, welcome, mate.
Hello, Gavi. Thanks for asking me to come on the show.
Oh, mate, great to have you. Absolutely great to have you. You have been around since day one.
That's right. Yeah, it was a good mate of mine that started it in May of 1981, which is 40 years next year. So we'll have to be some sort of a celebration next year, I'd imagine.
Geez, I bloody hope so, mate, because personally I like to celebrate. And we've got the photo on the screen there. That's showing you being a life member of the NZJSA, mate. You got that way back in, 2003? You've been a life member forever.
It does seem that way sometimes, doesn't it? But time goes pretty quick, Gavi, as you get older.
Mate. Now, one of the things that I only discovered over the last couple of years or something, I've known you've been running a bakery business since forever, but you were doing an apprenticeship when you bought the bakery. Can you run us through that one, mate?
Well, I actually started as an apprentice mechanic when I was 16 and only did 3 months. And in them days, you needed a qualified mechanic for every apprentice. And they decided to lay one of the qualified guys off, so I had to go as well. And anyway, then I got an apprenticeship in a bakery in Fielding, and I did 6 months, and then the guy that owned it, he decided he wanted to get out of it. He'd had enough, and so I ended up rounding up a bit of money I had, a bit my brother lent me, and a bit my parents lent me, and that was back in 1968, and I've been there ever since, and we've expanded quite a bit over the years. 2 kids are involved in it now. They're both running it at the moment, and pretty much I did 52 years. And then when we had 8 weeks of lockdown, I thought I could get used to this not getting up early anymore, and so I've sort of slowly stepping back and semi-retired, Gavi. But I'm still working tomorrow. I'll do the odd day, so it's still good.
Let's face it. So did you end up, you bought the bakery after 6 months. Did you ever finish your apprenticeship?
No, just pretty much self-taught from there on. Learned fast.
Mate, that is so cool. And mate, you started off as a jet sprint racer. We're going to throw a photo up now. Talk us through this photo here.
Yeah, that was I can't remember what year. It'll be late 80s. I'm guessing this is a little bit into the sprinting, probably 8 or 10 years from the first one. River track, obviously, on the Manitou River. In them days, this boat, I think, this one has been, the course actually been dug with the digger. So we're going to dig her into the rivers and made a course. The number on there will be a Waratah, or I think you call them Y-picks or something, don't you?
Oh, yeah, star picket, mate.
Star picks, yeah. So you used to drive those in and put numbers. So it was exactly the same system as today, where we had the boat on through number 2 and then number 3, just to be careful of the numbers in order in them days, and just work their way through a river course. And so yeah, that's on the Manitou River. No,
Mate, I love that, man, because we're having a lot
roll cages.
Oh, well, I was just about to say, mate, there's not a single roll cage there. Okay, you're wearing a helmet, obviously a life jacket, but that was as far as safety went. No roll cages. Was there a fire extinguisher anywhere nearby, just by chance?
Well, they were the same boats we used to do river boating on, and one of the rules we had to have a fire extinguisher for river boating, just the family type boating. So that would be the only reason it was in there. Some probably threw it out to lighten the load of it. It was good, pretty competitive even in them days.
Well, I bet you there was no scrutineering going on either. It was just, oh, well, look, there's your boat, off you go, have a bit of fun.
A little bit that way, yeah. And slowly it evolved, because as we started tipping boats over and stuff, we thought, well, we've got to make these things a bit safer. It's the nature of the beast. They're always going to want to go faster. So
that's right. And look, that's all. I think that would have to go without saying, really. So I don't know why I'm saying it, but seriously, the boats have got so much quicker from back in 1981.
Yeah. Not only got faster, they're also handling a heck of a lot better. I mean, those sort of boats. That wasn't a bad hull. That handled reasonably well, but some of the earlier ones and that didn't handle it all. You'd have to start turning 20 metres before the quarter, to slide them around.
We'll have a look at another photo here, and I quite like this one because obviously we're moving forward, and that roll bar there doesn't look like it would. Well,
it's a pretty serious roll bar, isn't it? Things only change slowly, as you can tell.
Oh, absolutely. And unfortunately, most safety laws are written in blood somewhere along the line. But, mate, I love that photo. What type of hull are we looking at there?
That would have been the 131, the Hamilton 131. I would have, it's got zoomies on that one. So I had a 253 Holden in that. Pretty reliable on motor. Had a little bit of success with it.
Well, how many podiums did you get?
Probably 2 or 3 over the time in my class. Yeah.
Oh, perfect, mate.
I didn't have a odd trophy.
Sorry to interrupt. Carry on.
Yeah, I have got 1 or 2 trophies, and still got them.
Oh, we should have got you to send us a photo of the trophies from back in the day. But, mate, you've been involved for 40 years from day dot. What's your sort of favourite memory, do you think?
Yeah, well, it's hard to know. There's lots of things. I guess some of the more humorous ones would be like the Oxymers, as you know, who came on not long after the start. I remember him parking a boat up on top of an island about 3 or 4 metres up in the air, just parked it neatly up there and just climbed out and bowed to the crowd. And little things like that were pretty humorous in them days. Once again, didn't have to take the seatbelts off, just jumped over the side of the boat and stood up. So,
the safety aspects, and there has been, as we say, sport builds character, but it's the characters that make the sport. And in 40 years of your time, mate, you've been all around the world with Jetsprint, and you were heavily involved in the World Jetsprint Series that, of course, was run by Jeremy O'Driscoll back in the day, where they ran 2 meetings per country. That would, in the heyday, that would have been enormous.
Yeah, it was pretty huge. Yeah, but you got a real world champion, didn't it? From it. They did 3 countries, 2 meetings over 3 countries, and over a whole year to get a world champion from it. And so I guess at the end of the day, you got a real world champion, didn't you?
Yeah, look, I think that as times have changed, you know, we've had to go to every country every second or third year, possibly this time because of the COVID-19, of course. But I think it's very interesting that the country nominates to hold the World Series. We try to keep it in a rotation, New Zealand, Australia, and of course the USA coming back on board. But in the day where everybody's trying to get back to, it was televised all the time. You know, boats being shipped around the world. I mean, what was it like to be a rock star, Robbie?
Well, you don't class yourself as one of those, but yeah, I just sort of do a job and try and do it as good as I possibly can, and it's thoroughly enjoyed, of course. Yeah, there were some real good characters afterwards. You get your hand shaken and stuff, but you know, they really thank you for what you've done and all this. And a little bit nowadays, you're just expected to do it, I think, but that's okay. Yeah, it was quite unusual. Yeah, they did treat you pretty well. Yeah.
Well, of course, because run us through the roles that you've had, that the involvement in the sport outside of the multiple times that you've been on the New Zealand Jetsprint Executive Committee. Outside of that, what other roles have you had?
And Jetsprint, you mean?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. I've only done 2 years on the exec as an exec itself. I've always sort of steered away from that a little, but on the track, I've always helped. I started off doing a bit of competitive stuff, raced a little bit, and then I started trying to organise them, which was a bit of a battle. Because don't forget, there were times we had 100 boats.
Wow.
To get through. I think the biggest we had was 120 boats one day, but we never used to launch them. We used to launch them and park them on the river. They just line them up along the bank. So the first thing I tried to do was get them in order, so they had first boat away as number one on the bank. But sometimes you'd walk the number one down to 10 at the other end and all this sort of jazz. So I finally got them all into some sort of a system that way, and so that was easy just to peel them off, just walk along and peel them off to go and run. And just slowly, once we moved them to purpose-built tracks, the whole thing was quite different. But on rivers were quite hard work to organise 120 odd boats. It was a big day.
I could imagine that would be the worst thing because, and let's face it, we're all jet sprinters, and that's why we're here talking. But we all have a bit of a limited capacity for memory, I think. And so trying to organise 120 boats with 120 drivers and 120 navigators and 120 crew chiefs, as well as all of their sponsors and their families and things like that. I can't believe that you actually managed to get through it day after day and time after time.
Yeah, it was long days. You only probably got about 4 runs a day, of course. Most of the big numbers we would do it over 2 days. But yeah, it was actually surprising. They seemed to know it was getting close to their turn and go. I've often told a story about one guy, I won't use his name, but he was ready to race. I had him on the launch ramp ready to go, and we'd run a little bit late. And he looked at his watch and says, "Well, I'm sorry, I can't go now." And I said, "What do you mean you can't go now?" And he said, "Oh, I've got a horse race due to run, so I've got to go and sit in the car and listen to the horse race and see how many horses going." So he just hopped out of his thing and sat in the car, listened to the race, and then came back and had his run. So there were some comicals around, just some funny bits. So
I don't reckon that too many races would be able to get away with that these days with, getting everybody to the ramp. Of course, we've got Lou on the launch ramp in New Zealand, the race directors, everybody. It's quite a slick run show these days. You certainly wouldn't get away with that now.
No, once you start getting public involved and stuff, they don't want to sit around waiting for one boat every half hour sort of. So we had to improve the whole system, and yeah. But now it is very slick now, yeah, one every minute or so now, and that works really good. And they're getting more runs too, so it's all working. But with the purpose tracks and ramps and stuff, it's a lot easier to do all that, of course.
Yeah, and look, you've been instrumental in making that whole transition and people realising that it's not just a race meeting for racers or for drivers anymore. It is a full entertainment package, you know, and as you just said, you know, we've got the crowd involved. They're paying money to come in and by you and all of the guys throughout the jet sprinting community over the years that have made that adjustment. It is just, I think, just such a spectacular thing to be involved in. But you don't actually get to see a lot of racing yourself.
No, some tracks you see nothing at all. And some tracks you can sort of watch while you're organising people. But pretty much what I've always done is organise the launching and getting people to the ramp on time and sorting them out and making it better. I've sort of worked on my own system. I had my own timing system. Although my daughter used to help with the timing and sorting out the top 9 and stuff. We use cards, you know, and you'd have all the time stacked up in the slot, and then while they were racing, you'd be shuffling them around so that when you got to the top 9 boats, you already had them in order. If you know what I mean, we were stacking them in cards. But now it's all done on a computer. They just push a button and it tells you. So that sort of stuff has speeded things up, but getting the results and stuff.
Mate, yeah. What got you into jet sprinting in the first place? What was the allure initially?
I think it just happens. I mean, I always had like we call a family boat. We used to boat on rivers and that with. And then this mate of mine, he used to, well, it started off, even in our normal club meetings, we would organise different things to do, you know, to make the club interesting. We'd have slaloms and the guy I'm talking about, he was always having good ideas. He'd make you a boat across the river and then run up the bank and eat a dry biscuit and then whistle and then jump back in your boat. And, you know, it was all timed and little silly little things like this. And he was always coming up with different ideas to make the day interesting, you know. And so I was always involved in that sort of thing. Because then he came up with the idea of putting numbers on the river and boating. Well, we started off with 20-litre drums and just tied to anchored to a bit of concrete. And put 2 drums together, you have a number 1 on it, and then 2 on the other side of the river with 2s on it. You had the boats through them, and that's what he called it, jet sprinting. And he came up with that idea, the name, and that's basically what we started with just plastic drums in the river, and we just zigzagged across the river through them, and then came back in reverse order back through them, and that was the start. But then, you know, then of course it evolved quite quickly from there. People could see, well, this is a lot of fun, you know. So then we started, we'll be a lot more interesting in a shallow water. So then we started finding somewhere on a river where there's a bit of a rapid or something where we could put some markers, so you had to go between the marker and the riverbank and probably 4 inches of water, you know. And so slowly you got 2 challenges, getting through the gap and not running aground as well. And so sometimes it's quite a slow day. You're pushing boats and getting them back in the water and all that. And I've done all those jobs. I've done the rescue side, a bit of pushing for a couple of seasons. So yeah, there's not many jobs I haven't touched.
No, absolutely. And that's one of the things, you know, mate, 40 years you've been hands-on with everything. But funny, I spoke to some guys down from the South Island there many years ago, and they suggested that that part of the river course, part of the marker for the course was a chili bin or an esky or a cooler, depending on which country you're in and what you call it. We all know a vessel, the thing that holds beer. And they said, oh no, they raced around them. And I reckon absolute bullshit. Who the hell is going to go and sacrifice a bloody chili bin or an esky as a mark of the course? No one that I know.
No. I don't recall using that. They might have had a few afterwards, but it was usually 20-litre drums or those wire steel stakes and stuff like that. But biggest problem, rivers, tracks, you never knew what river level would be. You could dig a track on a Friday, because that was the next stage. Because you couldn't find somewhere with little shallows, and then we decided we'd make money out of this if we could get somewhere where we could charge and get in. So then you had to find somewhere like a metal pit or a crusher area that's already fenced off. And but the river was never quite right for it. So then we said, well, we'll dig tracks. So then they started bringing diggers in, because being a crusher, they had all the gear. And normally you get a dug for pretty much nothing. So they'd dig a track, all this sort of thing, and that's the next stage. Then we started charging people to come in and watch, And that was pretty successful. With the biggest problem was weather. You dig it on Friday, and then it could rain up in the hills Friday night, and you come back on Saturday, and the rivers come up to, 20 or 30 mils or something, or 100 mils.
They're going to dig
or
it
the
again.
crop. It was either up or down, one or the other, and then you had to redig some of it. And, it was quite hard work, really, to get a day in. but it's all been part of the fun of how the sports have evolved, isn't it?
Mate,
Yeah.
I really wish I'd have been and seen the beginning of it. There was a rumour that I think it was somewhere in Lower Hutt, and the river flooded and washed out, not only out the course, but people were struggling to get their caravans and their boats and their cars and things out of the way of the flooding river.
That was in Masterton on the Rumohunga River. It was a beautiful day. We were boating, and someone said, well, it's been raining heavy up in the hills, which could be 100k away. But once you get heavy rain in those hills, it eventually will come down. And we just stood there watching the river come up. It was so fast. Yeah, and people were trying to get cars out of the car parks and abandoning the whole thing. There were cars with water almost going through the doors as if they only got out, It was probably one of the worst cases of a river coming up. We didn't even realise it was happening,
back in those days, mate. Now, we're talking that in May, it's the 40th anniversary of the start of jet sprinting. What do you think the world should be doing to celebrate that moment or that time frame? Do we get dwarfs on Clydesdale horses wearing knights of shining armour and flags, and the town crier going "Hear ye, hear ye"? I don't know. That's just off the top of my head. Have you got any thoughts?
No, not really. I've put a remit into our AGM next month to discuss it. I don't really think it should just disappear without something happening. But I'm sort of hoping for suggestions, really. We had a bit of a weekend, a couple of weekends ago. One of our Jetsprint guys has a lodge on the lake in Rotorua, and he came up with an idea of washed up jet sprinters club, just to get custom for his own lodge because of the lockdown. He's been doing it pretty hard. So 50 people turned up for the weekend, and he put on an absolutely awesome weekend. Even something like that, that was, I guess that could be growing on something similar.
Look, and let's face it, Nick Berryman down there at the Lakes Lodge, Lake Okatite, just out of Rotorua there. Been there once or twice, I must say, Robbie. Absolutely love it. And, of course, Nick and Rochelle, fantastic hosts. And rating number 3, if I didn't mention he was rating number 3 in the unlimited super boats worldwide at the moment, he'd be pretty thank. But, look, I think that any celebration of a sport that grew from people running up a bank and eating dry biscuits as 40 years later has to be celebrated, and celebrated well, I think.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether we perhaps should form a bit of a committee to come up with ideas, or I'd like to see it go somewhere, and to have even some guest speakers and stuff. I'm not sure how to go about doing it all, but I'm hoping we can get half a dozen people together and come up with something.
Mate, look, what I'll do is I'll have some input here. I'll just say, make sure that if you're coming to that event, you've got the chili bin stacked and the tent or the caravan or whatever accommodation well and truly sorted, because I dare say an event like that would go well into the wee hours of the next day.
Yeah, I would imagine so. Yeah, and that's what it's about, isn't it? So, yeah.
Mate, is that what has kept you in the sport for all of these years?
I often wonder myself. I do. I do enjoy a weekend away with people like, they're awesome, always been awesome people. There's always, it's quite a mixed variety of people, obviously, coming and going and stuff. And no matter where you go, you run into someone that was sprinting years ago or whatever. So, yeah, no, I just enjoy a weekend away like that, away from work and stuff, that you can just forget about work and go and spend the weekend. Sometimes it can be an awesome weekend. Sometimes it can be quite hard work, but mostly it's pretty good. Yeah.
Mate, it is always, it's always fun. Now, Robbie, we're nearly out of time here, but we normally do a segment of Show Us Your Shed, but I can see that you're in the bakery, so you've got to give the bakery a plug and show us your bakery.
Yeah, I can do. I'm not sure which way around I have this thing.
I don't know either, mate. You're the one at that end. You won't be able to do it too quickly.
Or do I have to show you this way?
Yeah, that way. Geez, I'll tell you what, mate, that looks bloody swish in there. Now, you've got to give your business a plug, mate. We can't have you on here without you telling us where we are.
Okay, we're in the actual shop at the moment. As you can see, this is all the food range here, and a lot of the cabinets are pretty empty now, but they'll be all chocker tomorrow. Round over here, we sell a lot of cake decorating stuff for people to decorate their own cakes and that type of thing.
Yeah, right.
So that's why a lot of that part there is. And of course, as you come around, we have all the bread racks and biscuits and everything else here. And then of course we've got the seating area. This is only part of it. We've got a big seating area here, and then we can go out through the door. We have what we call an open. It's all enclosed, but it's actually has a glass roof, so it's sort of semi-open to the weather, which is very, very nice. And so it's not open to the weather, but the sun does shine in through it. So big alley out there. Yeah.
Mate, how good is that? That is sensational. So if you're ever in Fielding and you're looking for a decent bite to eat, go and check out Robbie. Say good day to him. Tell him that I sent you down there. He'll definitely charge you double. He might not even be there. He's trying to take a few more hours off. So, mate, when we get out of COVID lockdown, you're more than welcome, as always, to come over here and come to my gym, mate, because I do work out the pass out down here.
Yeah, I definitely need to go back to Australia to another sprint. You guys put on a good show as well, and I've been to quite a few of your tracks and worked on them and all sorts. But
mate, obviously, everybody's just waiting to see what happens. So, hey, Robbie, thank you so much for being involved in the Jetsprint show. It has been sensational, mate.
Thank you, Kobe, for inviting me to come along. I don't know what else I can say to tell you about the thing, but it's an awesome sport, and I love it. Still love it. So I'll be back.
That's brilliant, mate. Good on you. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of the Jetsprint show. That was Robbie McNabb. I'm Cavey, otherwise known as Caveman, and this show was brought to you by So Not Hippie Tea. This is the sharpest attack tea. I call it Smarty Pants tea. Go to sonothippie.com and order your tea. Robbie, thanks again, mate. Hooroo, everybody.
Yep, no one, Cavey. See ya.